What's up everybody, it's your boy Duty back again with another video, and this video we're going to be taking a look at a segment from DSP's podcast where he talked about his upcoming event he titled the Darkside of Machinima. This is apparently going to be his new special event for July where he reviews June the King's new documentary about Machinima. And of course Phil claims he has some insight and some insider knowledge of his days at Machinima, and he apparently is going to be exposing Machinima because apparently, you know, they mistreated our boy Phil. Now, I wanted to play a quick video. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long, and then I wanted to talk about specifically the subject or the focus around NDAs and whether what Phil is actually stating is factual. And spoiler alert, no, it's not. Let's get into the video.
For you guys, and you might say, well, what is the event? Okay, so here it is. Thanks to JJNS, who came up with his name yesterday. It's superb. The Dark Side of Machinima. All right? I worked with this partner company, or MCN as they used to be called, on YouTube for over 6 years. This was the company that originally allowed me to monetize my gameplay videos on YouTube. If it weren't for Machinima, I never would have been able to be doing YouTube for a living. Because back in the day, when I became a partner in 2011, they didn't allow you to just monetize gameplay videos on YouTube. They were afraid that they weren't fair use, and therefore, all these gamers really had to find income from other ways. Well, all of a sudden, these partner networks stepped up and started, making these contracts with prominent YouTubers like myself, and allowed us to monetize all of our videos. Meaning, we went from overnight making $0 to thousands of dollars on our content. Okay, Machinima was a very interesting company, all right, because at times when they were coherent and they were focused and they were present, they were an amazing company. They would provide opportunities for promotion, opportunities for travel and special events. They'd give you free stuff that you didn't have access to otherwise, and they were really good. And sometimes they would help you out a ton. If you had an issue or thing that was going on YouTube, man, they would freaking really go out of their way to try to help. And then there were other times during the
So from what I gather here, Phil, is Machinima was actually pretty cool. They were pretty good to you. It sounds like they were the reason why you, to this day, 15 years later, you're allowed to do content creation. So I'm not sure what the hostility is towards Machinima, Phil. It sounds like they came in and gave you and a bunch of people a great opportunity when there was no opportunity at that time. So if I were you, I would probably be a little bit more grateful of them and actually, you know, give them the credit they deserve. But I'm pretty sure in the next segment here, you're going to trash Machinima.
History of this company, where they were just atrociously bad. They didn't want to talk with you. They didn't want to have anyone who could help you with anything. They would have a program going on and you would want to continue with the program. Oh, we just discontinued that program. It's gone. Well, were you going to tell me? No, we don't, what are you talking about? Well, we have no responsibility to say anything to you. But this is something that I've been doing for years. Oh, well, right? It was pretty ridiculous. Like, seriously, that company went from high, low, high, low, high, low. Like, you want to talk about waves? I mean, this is how the company was. It was never steady. It was always like, whoa, and you never knew who someone you were talking with at the company was going to work there for more than 6 months. It was such a fluctuating, tumultuous thing. So I have a lot of history with Machinima, working with them as a partner. And the truth is, most major YouTubers who were with Machinima left. They had enough of Machinima's fluctuating state and didn't like that, so they wanted something that was more steady, more guaranteed, and they left Machinima and went on to other partner networks. I was one of the few people who stayed with Machinima from the very beginning, almost till their end. Like, I was the holdout for them, and then even they decided that they were out of their mind. They cut ties with me. It's just asinine, but the thing is, I'll tell you the whole story.
Okay, so I want to comment on this. So probably what ended up happening, Phil, is that Machinima, when they first started, were a smaller company. They were very enthusiastic. They really wanted to get their name out there, and they wanted to be seen as a good partner to work with. So they were able, since they had less content creators, they were able to focus more attention to those content creators. So you probably had a partner manager who worked directly with you, contacted you, and so on. As they got bigger, they had more clients that came on and less resources. So people like you who were a smaller channel, yes, Phil, you were a small channel, you kind of got pushed to the side because the attention had to go to bigger channels like PewDiePie, Markiplier, and so on. So that's the issue there, Phil. The other thing is, Phil always complains about customer service. This is a man who complained when he took his car to Firestone and they told him he needed an oil change. He complained that the dealership didn't tell him, they didn't call him and let him know that he should change his oil. This is the same person that complained about Comcast when his internet went down 2 weeks ago, that they didn't bother to reach out to him and let him know that his internet was on. Phil, you're one of millions of customers, Phil. You're one little piece. You're one little fish in the pond, Phil. And this customer service that you think you should always get doesn't exist. So for you to fault companies for it, I mean, yeah, it gets frustrating when you want something or need something from a company, especially if you're paying for services. But you need to understand that they're just not there to service you, Phil. They're there to service millions of other customers. So I'm guessing that's why Phil is butthurt that Machinima mistreated him and didn't call him about every single change or every minute, detail. Yeah, and that's why it feels like that. When it comes to PewDiePie, Markiplier, and those people, the reason why they left was because YouTube opened up their own monetization, and there was no need to have Machinima as a middleman. That's essentially, you were paying Machinima to be a middleman. Now at that time they had these contracts that were in perpetuity, which meant once you signed that contract, you were officially their property until they let you go, which in most cases is illegal now, but that's how it was. And you either had to sue or stop making content to get out of that contract. And PewDiePie and a lot of those bigger content creators were smart enough to get away. You chose not to get out of that contract, more than likely because you were worried that YouTube wouldn't monetize you because of your hateful slurs, your misogyny, your fart jokes, all that inappropriate stuff that got you in trouble, right? You were probably worried that if you left Machinima and you tried the contract with YouTube, that they would say no and then you had to come back to Machinima. That's probably the reason why you didn't leave, Phil. So I love when you try to alter or retcon your history to try to make yourself look good.
During this event, all right? But here's the thing. I have saved so many emails. I have saved so much correspondence between myself and Machinima from back in the day that just going through this, seriously, a serious email search. I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot all about that. I forgot about this situation. Here's how they reacted in that situation. Here's one of my actual contracts of how money used to be set up on YouTube. And guess what? Because Machinima doesn't exist anymore, there's no such thing as an NDA. No one can sue anyone for revealing any information because the company went out of business. They don't exist. You see? So I can talk about whatever the hell I want in this event because I'm free to do so.
Actually, Phil, that is inaccurate, like always. Of course, Phil just wants to throw out generalities, and nothing is ever, maybe or black and gray. Now, in this instance, Phil is wrong. Just because a company goes out of business doesn't mean that you are free or at liberty to reveal company trade secrets and so on. No, it doesn't work that way, Phil. So let's real quick. I want to go through something very quickly about Machinima and just kind of talk about what happened to Machinima. So what happened to Machinima? So I think most people know what happened. They essentially got bought out. I think in 2016 they got bought out by Warner Brothers or Warner Media, right? And then in 2019 they made the decision to shut down Machinima. They were consolidating digital assets. So essentially they probably had a whole bunch of online businesses and they weren't really making much money. They were competing with each other and they figured, let's just mash it up. So Machinima, the trade name, actually got shut down. It doesn't mean that the company doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that it never existed or it just got yeeted in the band world. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that it's not operating. So Warner Media actually still owns Machinima, Phil. they still own Machinima. They're called essentially the successor. So any legal liabilities, any holdings that Machinima may have had before it was shut down or before, while it was sold, is all it all belongs to Warner Media. So for you to sit there and say it no longer exists is false. Okay. So I just wanted to highlight that because, again, Warner Media or Warner Brothers owns Machinima. They own the property Machinima. For example, if they decide tomorrow that, hey, maybe it was a bad idea to shut down Machinima, let's reactivate it, they can. They can use the logo, they can use the website, they can use everything that still exists out there because they own it. Okay, now why do I say that? Or why do I bring up this point? It's essentially to prove my point about NDAs. So right here, there's a legal professor called Dana Schultz. He's really good. He has a lot of good information, legal information. I read a lot of his stuff. So here it talks about specifically about NDAs. So here he has a post where he said, one has the power to breach a non-disclosure agreement. NDA, yes, people can breach it. The question actually is whether such a breach will have adverse legal consequences. Okay. When the former employer goes out of business, so that's Machinima, it is possible that a successor will hold the former employee's rights under the NDA. Okay? And who is the successor? Warner Media, Warner Brothers. They own Machinima. So they essentially also earn NDAs. If, whatever NDAs that were made by Machinima, Warner Brothers still holds those NDAs. So under such circumstances, the successor, Warner Brothers, would have the right to enforce the NDA against the former employee, Phil. Thus, breach could result in a lawsuit against that individual. There you have it, folks. Plain as day. That is my understanding too of NDA law. So I'm not saying that Phil is going to go to jail or if he gets reported. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is that what he stated about NDA is false. Just because a company goes out of business doesn't make you not liable for releasing information or disclosing contractual information. It's just something you shouldn't do. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have an NDA and the company goes out of business, right? Don't assume that you can break NDA. Call. I would call, or I would go online, or I would seek legal counsel to see if that's the case. Before going ahead and being stupid like Phil and just releasing contractual information, company secrets, whatever the case is. Now again, I'm not saying, if you report Phil, whatever, he's going to get locked up or sued. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that what he's stating about NDA rules, when a business no longer is running or operating, is just false. So if he wants to go ahead and start exposing stuff, go ahead, Phil, but one of these days you're going to run afoul and you're going to run into some problems. You did this when you got yeeted from Twitch. You decided to talk about bits and disclose all that bit information, when in your contract with Twitch it actually forbade you from talking about that at all. You're not supposed to talk about bits and the cost of it, nothing. What did you do as soon as you got departnered? You started blabbing about the values of bits, how the cuts go, and just started giving out trade secrets that Twitch owns. And if Twitch would have gotten wind of that, they could have sued your ass for doing that. Just because you don't work with them or you're not under contract doesn't release you from an NDA, Phil. Okay? So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out.